Welcome to this special webinar series, Bright Minds by Comviva and TOI. Through this series, we aim to empower the workforce of tomorrow by making them aware of the various innovations, opportunities in technology and fintech-related sectors. Our goal is to inspire and equip students and professionals alike with the insights, skills, and perspectives needed to excel in a rapidly evolving world. Also, we seek to create a forum where industry leaders, experts, and aspiring talents can come together, exchange ideas, and collectively shape a brighter future. Today, we have a very, very interesting webinar topic, which is evolving customer experience in the era of data science and AI. I have a fantastic set of speakers with me. I have Amit Sanyal, who's the Executive Vice President and COO, MarTech Solutions at Comviva. I have Manas Agrawal, who's the CEO and co-founder of Affine, which is a consultancy firm that delivers analytics-driven enterprise transformation. I have Shaveen Garg, who's the MD and partner at BCG. And I have Dr. Arnab Bhattacharya. He's a professor at Department of Computer Science and Engineering at IIT Kanpur. This is as good as it can get in terms of accessing this to the nursery from where we get all these professionals. We're going to discuss a variety of issues. We'll highlight how data science and AI are reshaping customer experience strategies and interactions. The successful implementation of data science and AI to enhance customer experience across industries. Also, we'll talk about the skill set required for a career at the intersection of customer experience, data science, and AI. We'll address the hurdles in implementing AI and data-driven customer experience and emphasize the importance of ethical practices. And we'll talk about emerging technologies and their impact and trends on customer experience. We start with Comviva because we're doing this project with Comviva. So I just wanted to understand that as an organization, what do you see are the biggest challenges that are there in adoption of data-driven CX customer experience strategies? Do you think that companies are ready for it, or they still trust the traditional forms of communication with the customers when it comes to any kind of interaction?
Oh, thank you so much, Pankaj, and happy to be part of such a distinguished panel. When you talk of data-driven anything, actually, it can be data-driven decisioning, data-driven marketing, data-driven CX, anything.
Yeah.
The way we have moved is, at least in last couple of years, we are seeing very high amount of enterprise intent. Everybody wants to do it. The challenges are twofold. The intent is limited by the ability. So data is all there. The biggest challenge that companies have is fragmented and siloed data sets. It's all there, but it's not usable. It's not usable in a way that it can lead to anything actionable. So that's first. So while there is an intent, the execution is slow, rudimentary, and limited to very small, what we call as use cases. That's first. Second, while there is a lot of senior management intent, the skills and alignment required across the organization has a far way to go.
Yeah.
It is still taken as a IT kind of an initiative versus a business initiative. So the first thing to be driven is organizational alignment, that AI or analytics driven anything is a business initiative and not really a localized IT or a CX initiative. I would say that's where we are today as the top two challenges.
Yeah. But is it coming more as an IT solution, or is it more as a strategic business decision when you talk to them?
There is a huge disconnect between the top and the bottom. So while the top believes it's a strategic direction, imperative for the organization to embrace and completely lead with that in the next 2 to 3 years, the execution machinery is still very IT driven.
Yeah. And Manas, what has been your experience since you are advising companies on these kind of digital transformations? What has been your experience in terms of how companies behave? What kind of a need do they find for such solutions?
No, first of all, my pleasure being on such a great panel, Pankaj, and I'll speak less and learn a lot from this panel. And I would carry forward from where Amit left that it has to be a business strategic decision if the intent is there, and there has to be a handshake between the business and IT, and business, IT, analytics. All these people have to be seated at the same table. If we call it a transformation, it cannot be done piecemeal. It will have to be done as a transformation project for which in the war room we need all these participants toward a singular goal that my customer's experience, which is the KPI I need to impact, needs to be transformed. And from there, it should all be driven. For example, let's say if I'm talking about my customer experience being transformed in the sense that it is much more personalized, it's much more timely. I'm talking to the customer on the interface that he or she is already in instead of adding one more interface. All these are going to transform my customer's experience. And for that, I need to make these changes in my business. And for that, I need to enable this kind of a data platform. So I think this entire story needs to be stretched and participants have to play their role. There have to be a project war room. And wherever we have seen success in 60, 70, 80% of the cases, where we have seen that when participants come together and this is driven right at the board level, the success is very high. Interestingly, we are in joint works wherein business consulting firms like BCG itself and Affine and Hewlett Packard and many players are jointly executing on these projects, which are not just a IT project but a strategic business intent project. So I completely side with Amit. I think the key technology challenges of siloed data and all are there. I think one emerging challenge that we will see is that now there's a lot of opportunity in extracting information from the text information, which is the user generated content, and not just the social media, but on your email communication, on the documents, contracts, and all. And that could give you further leverage if you use GenAI properly. And that I believe will become a challenge for the firms that don't use it. And trust me, firms do not have the time to really twiddle their thumbs and take a long time to get on that bandwagon. They'll get left behind.
Right, right. Thank you. Shaveen, coming to you, when clients speak to you, obviously this is an investment. Do they want to make this investment on the sales side, or are they also concerned about after sales as well? That, the after sales experience also needs to be digitized, or is it more about catching the customer and getting business?
No, I think it's across the value chain, but really right now the focus for most of the clients is where they can actually see the ROI of those investments much more clearly, right? And therefore and I think the team has been talking about it, the strategic intent. What do we mean by that? In fact, in our conversations is, right, what is truly differentiated for that company? And this customer experience is a very broad term. It can actually mean different, and your actions can actually differ. Whether you want the customer experience at the time when they're purchasing something, where your intent is maybe ease of information finding, ease of how the customer is interacting and ordering in the entire process. It could be customer engagement for information sharing. I want to know more about the product. I have questions. I want to engage with this product or a service. Or it could be a complaint, which is a completely third category, where there is a query or a complaint which the customer has. There you're not there actually the focus is not for the person to talk to you. The analytics and AI is actually helping more proactively finding when they might need to call you and therefore stop that conversation itself. So the ROI on all of these varies by different products and services. I think what's most important is when we are talking to the client, we actually go and check with them and come up with what will create the maximum value for their buck in terms of, is it the differentiation they are trying to get into the market? Is that something which the customers are really would want to, will it create a difference, or is it a hygiene? And I think the factor the clients are able to put on getting an ROI on the growth or a customer retention and churn reduction is much higher than some of the hygiene factors today.
Thank you. And last but not the least, Dr. Arnab, what has been the, I would say, preparation at the ground level? You are providing all the professionals who are going to kind of get into this pipeline and develop solutions and, so on and so forth for the companies. how prepared are the colleges for all these kind of transformations in terms of your syllabus, in terms of your curriculum, in terms of how you get to know from the industry what they want. So what has been the, experience at your level?
Right. So first of all, thank you for the question, and I'm grateful to be part of this elite panel. From the academic perspective, this data science and how the industry reacts has been always a matter of concern, or rather a matter of opportunity for us. So in fact, computer science, unlike other subjects, is very much the curriculum is very much industry driven. So we are almost always aware what the industry wants, and we always try to adapt it. So the data science has now been introduced as not just, so originally it was just a subject. Now it has become a stream in many IITs, many places. So there is a Bachelor of Data Science now. So this is the recognition of the fact that the industry has a big requirement for data science people, understanding data, how to manage data, and as one panelist already mentioned, that the industry has a lot of data, but in silos. So they are this thing. So the data science curriculum is essentially trying to understand these problems and then trying to solve it. So if there are data, how to data integrate data, how to still make it consistent, then how to make value out of it. So I would say in computer science, the curriculum and is actually has caught up with the trends. Of course, when I say caught up, it cannot be that quick. The curriculum takes its own time to change it, but we do change a lot. In fact, in IITs, there is one very good thing that we can do is that the graduate level courses can be introduced very easily. The time to get it approved and the time to design is very fast. So in fact, within 6 months, we can get a new course approved and then start teaching it from the very next semester. And people do it. I mean, I have done it myself, and people do small changes, etc. So I would say, as an academician, we are ready, but we require more domain knowledge. Academics we have this word in English, right? For academic purposes, which basically means not for real purposes. But I would say that synergy, if we can develop more with the industry, where we actually get to see real data, understand the domain knowledge, and then apply, that will be best.
Yeah, in fact, what is the level of interaction that you people have with the industry? People talk about industry having interaction with the students, but as far as the faculty is concerned, what kind of engagement do you generally have with the industry on various aspects, not only data science, but generally to understand what the industry wants, what the industry is thinking, how the industry is innovating?
So, right. So, I mean, many of these are at individual levels. So interested faculty members try to contact industries, and industry people try to contact this. But there are some at the institute level. So some interested industry, for example, contacts the whole department as a whole. And then there is a joint sitting with different faculty members and the industry people, and the industry explains what the problems are, and then somebody in the department collectively or individually takes it up. The issue with academia per se is that at the end of the day, this is a very what you call an individual level. I mean, rather the way I would like to say it is that the institute, although suppose, for example, the institute wants some of us to be part of some particular industry, it really cannot mandate it. Therefore, if there is nobody interested, then nothing moves. But that doesn't happen. Always there will be some people or the other interested. At least in computer science, data science, I can see that. But that's a caveat. I mean, this cannot be mandated. That's the only thing.
Right. So we've got the opening comments. When we talk about data science and AI, they sound very fancy and futuristic. But sometimes at the ground level, things could be very different. There could be everything is going to the grid at the end of the day. And there could be cyber attacks. There could be things like that. So let's start with that. That when you are offering solutions, how much, how much of these problems have you noted? Like Shaveen, I think mentioned that 70 to 80% may work and 20% may not work, if I'm not wrong. Shaveen, you said that? No.
Manish said that. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
Manish.
I would say like a quarter of them may also not work. That is one part of it. The other part is, preparing for such kind of exigencies wherein, there's a cyber attack, big cyber attack. Things go down. We saw what happened with the Microsoft issue recently, Microsoft outage. How do you prepare for that? Because, once you start digitizing everything, there are chances that everything may collapse with, in case of a cyber attack. And that leads to tons of losses and loss of reputation as well. Uh, Amit, if I start with you, how do you see that?
So actually, very good question. Now, it has a little broader implication, Pankaj. See, what we are seeing, at least in software terms, privacy and security have really taken center stage in the last about 3-4 years, right? The way security was looked at in software terms was not as predominant 2-3 years back as it was earlier. Same with privacy. Okay, you can extend it a little bit into ethics also, right? So privacy and security take center stage. I would say from a security aspect, the world is still evolving. And you have seen the recent downtime that happened in a very large provider globally, right? Because it was not earlier, the purpose of the software was to get the job done. Even now it is the same. But to get the job done securely, ethically, keeping the end users' interest and data protected is now really center stage. So, way the rest of the technologies have evolved, the security aspects are only now maturing. So that's first, and we are seeing it everywhere. Second, see, it works like Manas said 60, 70, 80% of the time, and I like it that way. Okay, when you say data science, let's take churn as an example, and it's a very good example. Had it been a perfect science or a perfect technology, let's say I can predict churn with 100% accuracy 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Then in an ideal world, there should be no churn. Right? If I can predict with 100% accuracy 100% of the time, there should be no churn. The whole thing that makes probabilistic and deterministic models a little real is the whole estimation methodology leading it to 80, 90, 95% accuracy. I think that's really good. If it goes to 100%, it will take away a lot of the human elements of process and people out of the technology, which are equally important. So while you may believe it works 80, 90% of the time, I would say 85 to 90% accuracy is a fantastic accuracy in a particular model. And I would leave it at that.
Right. And Manas, what is your, I would say, cautionary statement to the customers when it comes to, digitizing entire processes that, they also have to simultaneously prepare for these kind of attacks, ransomware, cyber attacks, and all those kind of glitches and all. So do you also tell them that, while you spend money on this, you'll also have to increase your budget on these aspects as well?
No, absolutely, Pankaj. In fact, this is something which is sacrosanct, that it's not to be separately budgeted. It has to be part of your core budget where you design and architect your data systems in a manner that they are resilient to attacks. You also compartmentalize and containerize your intelligent agents so that if one agent fails because of a cyber attack, the other agent, especially systems that are working in real time. For example, I think, let's say on that day, one of the biggest failures that got highlighted was on the airline booking. Now, if there are certain intelligent agents which are allowing customers to, interact with a chatbot to book their tickets, if that's down, you need to have multiple such agents available so that if one set of systems is down. Also, very important and carrying forward from Amit's point of view, it's not just about the accuracy, but the human in the loop is very, very essential to cover for that what we call the randomness in the customer behavior, cover for a randomness in the scenario, and also cover for the contingency. So it has to be man plus machine today and tomorrow and always, that a human in the loop not only gives you a completeness from what a human experience expects, also gives you the contingency. So I think building resilience into your architecture through redundancies and also ensuring human in the loop, I think these are very critical to the central budget and not as a peripheral piece.
So human in the loop means like in what way?
Human in the loop means that while the system is running on its own, the first point of failure or at a certain point of failure, there's always a human available to take over. And you do expect that sometimes it could happen, right? So you bake in that contingency, you bake in that expectation that it could go wrong. And what happens in that escalation? Who takes over? Does a rule-based system take over, which is approximate, which is hosted elsewhere? Does a human take over to at least take care of the critical issues and all? How do your human in the process respond to that? That has to be a part of your planning and not as a knee-jerk reaction.
And coming to Shaveen, the more you talk about these aspects to the clients, do you kind of scare them? So it's better not to talk to them because they'll not sign on the dotted line and you'll not get the business, the mandate, or you have to tell them, and then after hearing this, how many actually go back and say, I'll come to you after 6 months, after 1 year. Let me focus on
Yeah.
my margins and then we'll talk. And be honest.
No, yeah, honestly, avoiding this conversation is not feasible. The awareness around the risks around this, in fact, is much higher. In fact, we try to mitigate we talk about it and help talk about mitigation of these rather than not talking about it, right? Actually, the adoption, it's a vicious circle. See, if you look at, there are few technologies. If you look at cloud also, few years back when public cloud came, similar concerns were there around security, whether public cloud will be secure enough for banking operations and so on. Slowly,
Yeah.
steadily, two things happened. One, the scale which some of the companies were able to create was much higher, which proved to large companies, like you needed somebody else to say that, oh, yes, I am doing it there and I'm safe and therefore you are safe as well. So you needed to create proof of concepts at scale, not like small POCs, which is happening in GenAI, but proof of concept at scale and then replicate. And the second thing was that the benefits of that technology outweighed the investments which were required. The amount of disruption the public cloud was able to create in the cost structures, in the efficiency, agility of the firms, actually outweighed the amount of investment they wanted or they were willing to make in cybersecurity. In the case of AI, Gen AI in CX, I think that is where the cusp the industry is. They're not yet sure on how much value it will create for me because they have done it in POCs, they have not done it at scale. And they're worried about this investment, which is required investments on cybersecurity, privacy, ethical AI, all those things, whether there'll be a bias in the model and so on. I think this benefit and the cost equation is yet to be proven. And I think that's what Amit was saying, that the cost is also coming up. If the value is enough, I am 100% sure the technology advancement is so fast today, cybersecurity and those things will be managed if the value of the benefit is much higher. I think we are at the cusp of proving the value, then the investments will happen. And that's what we are trying to create at BCG, marquee accounts at scale, where they have deployed it and have done it with the right investments. One, it becomes a proof point for the others to replicate, and then it actually shows the value it can create even at the cost of investments.
And then coming to Dr. Arnab, the question is that it's not just one stream that you're talking about. It's not only about analytics, but you talk about cybersecurity and other kind of areas as well. So how robust are all these conversations when you have with the students, and how interlinked are they in terms of what you teach them?
Right. So first of all, I think there's a very important point made is that we should not even think that our system can be 100% accurate and human in the loop. And having this awareness both from the client side, the industry provider side, and also from the academic point of view is extremely critical. After all, these are human systems where, in fact, what I tell my students is that if you are doing an algorithm which is close to 100% correct, I will not believe you. There must be some catch, which you have missed, obviously. So, I mean, it's just not possible in real life, right? So, cybersecurity is actually see, it's a cat and mouse game, and we all know this. So I
Yeah.
I slightly disagree with Shaveen ji in the sense that, of course, we are improving every day, but so are the hackers, right? And you only kind of try to mitigate different kinds of things, which is not there. So you have to go with the assumption that nothing can be 100% secure unless what the army and the other things does. They have an air gap, essentially cut off the entire thing, correct?
Yeah.
So again, this awareness has to be there that, look, some part of your data can be compromised, some part of your analytics, some part of whatever you're doing can be there, because you can never say that I am always going to be the best and the hackers cannot be me. That assumption is
Yeah.
it's a dangerous assumption. Rather, you should take it humbly, saying that there may be some things, but I should very quickly react to it, maybe cut off certain things, maybe put the human back in the chain, maybe stop the access and all of these things. So this Microsoft thing is extremely important. It should be an eye opener for the entire industry and everything. The airlines just didn't have any backup system. They just couldn't operate the flights, and in many airports, in fact, I was flying that very day. In many airports, at the end of the day, if you do not have a check-in baggage, they were handwriting the what you call the boarding passes. And as a result, what happened is the boarding passes were becoming like bus things. Anybody who enters and takes a seat sits down. But so there has to be some other way. There has to be some awareness that this may have happened.
Yeah.
So cybersecurity is very important. Cybersecurity should be, again, nothing is 100% right. This, I think, is the crux of the discussion.
In fact, Dr. Arnab, let me also talk to you about availability of of talent to handle these issues. You are in a very, very prestigious college, but generally, how many students are studying this? And if they are studying it, how much are they prepared for the industry? Because what you teach may not even be required by the industry, and they may not be at par with the requirements of the industry. So, first of all, is there a shortage of talent? And do you see that? Do you see a shortage of even institutes, that are looking into these aspects also? Because these are the, very hot areas at this point. What's the scenario like?
So, yeah, I would not say it's a shortage of talent. Again, I would see the problem is, I mean, let's go back maybe a decade, etc., or look at the mechanical and the electrical. They have these apprentice kind of things, right? So what you learn, when you graduate from the college, you are not considered industry worthy right at that point. You have to be on the job for at least 6 months, 1 year. Now, fortunately or unfortunately, in CS, that's not the case. Industry expects a student to be working on critical project on a critical mode from day one of the graduation, right? Now, this has its own challenges. So it's very good in one sense because the students have to be prepared in that manner. But in many cases, the way industry things work and the way academia assumes things will work is very different. So it's not so much of a talent issue. It's not so much of a preparedness issue either. It's just that the way work progresses, the work culture in industry versus academia, there is bound to be differences because that is why they are separate, right? So bridging that gap and for both the industry people and the students and the academicians to understand and acknowledge that, look, there has to be a change. So I graduate out, I am maybe working in something different, but I have to adapt. This mindset is extremely important. And this mindset is extremely important for us as faculty members to also realize that no matter what we do, we cannot replicate the industry processes in academia, and we should not try to, because then academia becomes industry, right? So there are two different things, there are two different ways of working, and the student has to make the transition smooth. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah. And Amit, when you get freshers, how much of a training is required for them to get them inside your whole system and, get them up to date with what you require? Are there like 6-month courses, 1-year things, or internships, or whatever, to prepare them for the needs of the industry? How do you do that?
That's a very good question, and let me answer it in 3 parts. So let's start with CX. Our industry readiness for CX professionals across the country is very weak currently. In fact, globally also it's very weak. You won't find any customer experience courses, but you will find a lot of courses of application of something into customer experience, right? But how do you do the first thing first? How do you design a good customer experience, right? So people who need to interface on customer experience roles need a lot of ramp up after joining. So
Yes.
that's first one. Second one, we are still pretty crude in terms of even talent availability on the security side. It's considered a niche area. Not many people take it, even though it's a highly critical area, right? So we are kind of stuck for talent on security. Now coming to the hot topic, analytics, AI and Gen AI. There you have a different problem. The dearth of professional is zero. Almost every person you meet today at a entry-level graduate job has 5 things written about analytics. Everyone. Okay. It's kind of becoming what is called as other graduates in the country, where you are producing a whole mass, but are they really employable, right? What we are seeing on the analytics side is people take anywhere between 3 months to 9 months to have practical understanding of the application of what they have learned in their college.
Yeah.
So typically, and those are the 3 parts. If you are a customer experience professional, a very long time, because your school wouldn't have taught you much. Security, talent is there, ramp up time is very short, but the talent crunch is very heavy. And finally, analytics professional, no dearth of talent, but the quality and readiness of the talent is really low currently.
Yeah. And Manas, how do you see this aspect?
No, aligning pretty much with Amit there, I would not really comment too much on the security aspect of it, because we typically end up partnering with other firms on that aspect within the client organization.
Yeah.
But on the data science and AI, I think there's no dearth of resumes, I would say, not of talent. Talent is in very short supply, because people can write anything. The moment you start questioning them about how much do they understand the pros and cons of any technique to be applied, and why would you apply one technique versus the another, you start separating the wheat from the chaff. And typically it takes around, I would say, 3 to 4 project cycles more than the number of months. Sometimes if those cycles happen in 1 year versus one in 6 months, people gain experience on practical. That's where companies like us actually, apart from providing internship or the initial training, we also allow them to shadow on existing projects, so that they experience the real world scenario faster than just another theoretical lecture. After their graduation, another set of lectures at a place like Affine. We believe more on shadowing and learning on the job than through theoretical classes. But yes, that training is very much important.
Yeah, which is very important. Actually, once you've got your foundations right, then obviously you understand, and they understand the requirements of the industry and learn
Absolutely.
from the professions. Coming to this issue of privacy and ethics, which was mentioned earlier, and Shaveen, coming to you, because today when you talk about customer experience, many companies are multinationals also, operating across continents. And especially when you look at the laws in, for example, in EU, like GDPR and so many other things and all, how much do the companies understand these aspects also? Because increasingly, privacy has to come at the forefront as well. You cannot just move around with the data of the customer and do anything that you want.
Yep.
And also be ethical in the way you deal with that data. There have been so many cases of data manipulation, data being sold. How do you first of all, do the companies understand the needs of these aspects as well? And do you also see challenges in terms of ensuring that companies do not violate these, are not violating these areas like ethics and privacy?
Yeah. Now, the companies and especially the multinationals you're talking about, they're completely aware of it. So the solutions which we do typically is very bespoke to each region or a specific. So therefore, in most of the situations, creating an answer which is applicable across all geographies and a startup at a corporate level doesn't work. So therefore, most of our solutions when we are building are in the context of the local regulatory compliance requirements like GDPR, as you mentioned, or what are the boundaries. And there are two ways companies are dealing with it. One is to take the strictest rules and apply everywhere. So they will typically take the EU regulations as the baseline and will say that we will do all analytics, all data collection, all data mining, as well as any models being built, assuming EU laws are the strictest, and that's why you do it. But in many other places, actually, we do it by country to compensate for it. But the regulatory requirements may not be very clear to them, and that's a part of the role which either their internal teams or consultants like ourselves play, based on our experience on what will keep you relatively within the compliance, what is okay and what's not okay. The models which we build for the clients have to make sure that they are regulatorily compliant or data usage, and removing bias from the data and ethical use of data. All of those constraints are taken care of.
Yeah. And Dr. Arnab, how do you emphasize this aspect of ethics when you're teaching students all these aspects? That you have to maintain the ethics, and you have to understand that these are very important data sets that you get, and you cannot be manipulating them for whatever reasons.
I think to me, at least personally, ethics is the most important part. Everything else can wait or can be sacrificed, but ethics cannot be. In fact, I would say that this data privacy, I mean, see, many companies have been caught red-handed in that manner, saying that although they say they are protecting, they have been found to be not protected. So EU has very strict rules. Most countries do not have no such strict rules. But it is extremely important for any data science course, and I do it very heavily in my own course, for the students to understand the ethical concerns. So sometimes what happens is the students don't even understand that this is an ethical issue. So at least they should be aware that there is a privacy issue, there is an ethical issue. See, for example, there is a project based. So I asked them to do project. They said, okay, I can scrape data. I said, is that legal? They said, no, sir, it doesn't matter. I can write code that will scrape data. And if they stop it, I can make sure another connection and all of that. I said, look, you can do it now as an academia project. Suppose you are working for an industry.
Yeah.
Will you be permitted to do this? Should you do this? You should not, right? I mean, and that practice should start from your academic days. It's not that you can just get away with whatever you feel you can do. And so ethics, even to understand ethics, now one of the other points I would like to make is that ethics is a very cultural issue. So what can be considered unethical in Europe may not be unethical in USA, or what may be considered as ethical in USA may not be considered as ethical in India. So for a multinational company, it is a bigger challenge because they have to adapt to the ethical rules of the country that they are doing. And students, workers, whoever have to be very much aware of this. And I remember a funny story when I was when in USA, the first thing that you write in your CV is a date of birth. Then they got kind of shocked, saying, no, you cannot write your date of birth. I said, what? Everybody in the world, at least in India, knows my date of birth. They said, look, this is not ethical here. So this is, I mean, it's not that I was trying to be unethical. It's just that the awareness of what is ethics per country, etc., and what violates ethics, this is supreme to me. Yeah, and every course should mandate doing this.
True. This last question on Gen AI. That how has it kind of improved your life, or made it difficult to show things in a very complex way and then charge a lot of money? They'll say that Gen AI platforms, the Gen AI companies that are using that can do it at at a very low cost than what you are quoting. So if I start with you, Amit, what is the impact of generative AI in all this? And there are, solutions are coming in very fast, very efficient also, and cost-wise as well.
So let me give you a short but very precise answer. From our customers, we hear that Gen AI is extremely aspirational. Okay, like exactly what you said. What can we do with Gen AI? Gen AI is the next best thing, etc. So it's a very aspirational technology at present. However, the use cases and applications, the actual uses of Gen AI is still very experimentative and tentative. That's where we are as a reality. But those experimentative and tentative use cases, are they really useful? They are absolutely brilliantly useful, especially on the content and personalization side. They are really useful. But I would still say the expectation from Gen AI currently is too aspirational. The real use cases are still experimentative.
Right. Manas, what is your view on this?
So I think, absolutely rightly pointed out by Amit. But I think, we have already seen quite a lot of success in the proof of concept, and now is the time to give it a right scale.
Yeah.
Even data sciences and cloud and all other emerging tech at one point of time, they need an entire ecosystem.
Yeah.
Right. So just Gen AI in isolation won't work. It has to be Gen AI and the entire data ecosystem, the ops ecosystem, a cloud ecosystem relevant to Gen AI. And you have to also have to change your business processes to make the best use of Gen AI. So we are already seeing certain conversations when now people are asking, okay, now this, it's almost like the internal combustion engine. This engine is there. How do I create the transmission and the carburetor and the exhaust and everything? And how do I make it work under the chassis? Right. So I think we are at that cusp. I think in the next 6 to 8 months, we will start seeing the emergence of certain orchestration platforms that will make it easier to use Gen AI in a safe and very ethical manner. I think, again, going back to your question, Pankaj, within Gen AI also, ethics is taking a very, very large role. And it has to be baked into the solution and not thought of it separately. So we are at the cusp. Next 6 months, we'll start seeing some fairly, good enterprise implementations of Gen AI.
Shaveen, your views on this?
No, I agree with Manas and Amit on the current state of where the Gen AI is and the potential. And I think to your point around who will take the value extract, will it be the companies which are building the models, the LLMs or the models? Will it be the people who will mine the data, or will like the data, structured, unstructured data, which is required to build these models, or these will be the applications on top? So that is yet to be seen on who will actually extract the value out of it from a monetary basis. But at least one place where we find that there is a lot of emphasis required to scale, to what Manas you were saying, right? What will it? Yes, all the POCs have been successful, is actually the age-old change management. The use of this and the implication of that down to the process level on what people are supposed to do, the change management of each step, because it only works when all the part of the engine works well. So the change management of at scale, getting it done, even if it is on application writing, application development use, or is it on the CX side, that is a big unlock, at least in the few experiences we have had to actually make it happen. But I'm very confident that it will happen.
Fantastic. And Dr. Arnab, how do you see the impact of Gen AI? Students may be doing their stuff pretty fast, and it's a good thing also, but are they also using it in a productive way as well?
Right. So what my standard joke about Gen AI is that एक दिन सब LLM हो जाएंगे. So all of the world will be run by LLMs. And students have started adopting it. So now giving, for example, assignments is very hard because they are going to use ChatGPT. So and other things. So Gen AI, there's a lot of potential. Right now, it is solving a lot of problems, right? Quite fast, accuracy-wise, etc. Couple of points I'd like to make from the academics point of view. First of all, interpretability and explainability of Gen AI. I mean, this language models, etc., is not there at all. So if you have a solution or if you have a decision, you really cannot explain why, and you do not even know how to tweak it. It's like a black box to you. And the standard large language models, these are built once, because there is it just costs so much amount of data and money that even Google, Facebook, etc., they cannot afford to build it twice. They just think of some parameters by some means and they build the model, right? So that need not be the best model, that is not interpretable, is not explainable, etc. So it is still some way when we can say that LLMs ek din sab LLMs ho jayenge, but it's on the way. The other important thing is, if you have noticed, again, this culture specific thing and country specific thing will happen very heavily. Right now, LLMs are extremely Western culture, Western civilization based. So you ask a India specific question, you ask a Indian language specific question, the performance is not up to the mark. Of course, as an academician, I can see that's a temporary hindrance. It is going to be very quickly picked up. More importantly, as I said, this explainability and interpretability, some very fundamental things. Fundamentally, it has to change.
Yeah.
And I also work in the legal field, where the judges, the judges said, look, you can do whatever. You can even show me 95% accuracy for a judgment. I don't care. If you cannot explain to me why you think this person is guilty, I will not touch it. Similarly, this is going to be coming from many customers. At the end of the day, you have to explain, and you have to be, more importantly, able to tweak it. If you have a small change, you just cannot say, if Google says this is the road, this is the road. If I go away somewhere, I have to come back. No, these things don't work. So LLMs have still some way to go. It is a very disruptive thing as far as even academia is concerned, jobs are concerned, etc. But as I said, this explainability is again a very, very important thing. And the ethics of this jailbreaking, hallucination, all of this, the ethics of LLMs have to be also looked into.
Right. Thank you very much for this wonderful discussion. I think what I understand is that you guys feel that there's an enterprise level intent to obviously modernize and, get more IT into the customer experience matters, and also in other aspects as well. But then security aspects are also evolving, and, you need to be very careful on those aspects as well. There is shortage of people in security areas, students, and also the people that you get, and students need to understand more about ethics as we look into these aspects. And Gen AI, yes, it is experimentative, it is at the cusp, but gradually it may kind of also add to all these in all these areas as well. So with this, thank you very much for this wonderful discussion, and hope it it's just not there on the software side, but also on the human aspects as well. Because when the software fails somewhere, the customer expectations still have to be met. So those are also equally important, and those fail-proof systems are also there. But thank you very much for the time.